and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and it's time for a Game Week 8 transfer tier list video. We're going to rank the most popular transfers of the game week and kind of decide which ones are the ones to go for and which ones are total avoids. Guys, if you do enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like. It really does help out the channel, and do subscribe if you are new around here too. Let's have a look at this tier list. So 30 players, going from the least popular of the 30 all the way up to the most popular transfer of the game week at time of recording. We're going to put them into these 5 categories depending on how good they are as a transfer. And we're going to start off with Digne. Digne is going to go pretty low. I'm not going to lie to you guys. He's going to go pretty low. I would personally be avoiding him. I can maybe understand some very specific circumstances where you might want to buy Digne. One of those circumstances might be if you are wildcarding like in game week 9 or 10, then maybe I would take Digne for a 1 or 2 game week punt. The problem is with Digne is that Alex Moreno is back in training and he's just building up his fitness now, and he is going to be coming in and getting a lot of game time. He is one of Emery's favourite players in that Aston Villa team. So I do feel like Digne's time is limited. However, saying that, for this game week only, I feel like he's actually not such a bad pick. So for that reason, there are some circumstances, like I say, where he could be a pick, but in general would not be looking to go for him. Next up, Turner. If you are on a wild card or you're just looking for a cheap goalkeeper, I think Turner is still a decent player to go for. Yeah, 4 million, so super cheap, so really able to save some money and spend it elsewhere in other areas of your team. We've got 2 good fixtures next for Turner, including Luton Town next game week in game week 9, which is pretty nice. And he rotates quite nicely with some of the other goalkeepers as well. So Turner should be keeping his place in the Nottingham Forest team for now, and I still feel like he's a pretty decent player to have in your team. Next up, we're going to put a Romero in, who for some reason I've labelled as a Dogi, but believe me, that is not a Dogi. This is meant to be Romero. So yeah, audio listeners, I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but people who may be tuning in, skipping across the video, might be a bit confused by this one. But Romero, I'm going to put him in the avoid section. You're going to find out pretty soon why Romero is in the avoid section, but it's pretty much because he's not the best Spurs defender to go for. In my opinion, I feel like there are some better options out there that we will talk about, and Romero's not cheap enough really to justify going ahead of the others. If Romero was, 4.5 million, that I'd understand trying to trim the costs a little bit on your Spurs defenders with some nice fixtures coming up. But right now, honestly, I would not be looking to go for Romero at all. I don't think he's going to score too many more of those headed goals. He'll score a couple throughout the season. He's already scored a couple. But yeah, when we're looking at these Spurs fixtures, I want to go for players who I can more reliably pick will get good results against the likes of Luton and Fulham in the next 2. So for now, Adogi's going to go in the avoid section. Isak, I kind of like him. I'm going to put him minimum good transfer. Would even be tempted to put him in great transfer, but I'm going to put him high good transfer just because we know that Callum Wilson is going to be at minimum out until the international break. The international break takes place after game week 8, so you're going to have Isak for game week 8 at the very least, but I feel like Isak should still be good for game week 9 as well. So in the short term, Isak's going to be really good, really nice pick to take advantage of these nice fixtures for Newcastle. After that, things might change a little bit, but Isak is, whenever he plays, whenever he's on the pitch, he's always looking good. Back down to 7.5 million now as well, so a decent price for him. Don't mind him as well. We're going to go Anthony Gordon next, who I think has to go in the avoid section just because he is suspended. He got another yellow card. He is suspended for this game week. Again, there might be very specific circumstances why you might pick Gordon. So, for example, if you need to, make 2 transfers and you need to downgrade, a midfielder to free up some budget, you don't really know who to go for, you can cover Gordon for this game week only, then maybe I would understand it and you could just leave Gordon on the bench for 1 week. But in general, he's not really a player you want to be picking up when he's not going to have a fixture this game week, really. So yeah, wait 1 more week if you really want to go for Gordon. He is suspended, but he is going to be back fresh with no risk of yellow card suspension after this game week. So for now, an avoid. After that, we'll talk about him again, perhaps. Kaoru Mitoma against Liverpool next. It's not a bad fixture, really, but am I super confident in him? I'm going to say no, not super confident. So I'm going to put him in optional. The only reason is because after this Liverpool fixture, we have that really tough one against Manchester City. And then after that, things do look a lot better. So he's definitely going to be a player who we speak about soon as a very good transfer, maybe even a great transfer. And if you're on a wild card, maybe you think about picking him up now a little bit earlier. But in general, he would not be the kind of player I would be looking at right now. He is an option. There's going to be like times where you might want to pick him, but in general, I think there are better options to go for right now. Douglas Luiz is an interesting one, and generally my rule is defensive midfielders go straight in the avoid category. So usually I would say that, but 5.4 million is pretty cheap. And what we do know about Douglas Luiz is he's on penalties and he's on corners. He's going to be on some free kicks as well. So there are still like some avenues for him to get FPL points. So for that reason, still not my favorite pick in the world, but I am going to put him in the optional category because I feel like, you know, with the corners, with the penalties, there are still going to be avenues to get points for his very, very cheap price tag. But don't expect too much from him. He's going to be a 2-point player most game weeks, and you may occasionally get lucky with a corner assist or a penalty goal. Outside of that, you're probably not going to get too much from him. So just be aware of that if you are going for the cheap option like Douglas Luiz. He's cheap for a reason, you know. Next up, Tariq Lamptey, 3.9 million defender. I'm guessing a lot of the transfers in for him are people on wild cards and just looking for like a super cheap defender to just stick last on the bench, maybe get the occasional minute from him. But in general, he's not a starter. He's not a main starter for Brighton. He's not going to be getting very much game time at all. I doubt he'll start very many games at all, like maybe 1 in 5. You don't even know when that fixture that he will play is going to be. Is it going to be a bad fixture? Is it going to be a good fixture? You don't know. Is he going to make it to 60 minutes? You don't know. Is he going to get attacking returns in those times where he's on the pitch? Possibly not. And is he going to get clean sheets even when he does start? We know Brighton are not the greatest defence in the league, so maybe not that either. The one saving grace for Lamptey is his cheap price tag. However, there are many other 3.9 million defenders to go for, like Charlie Taylor, for example, could be an option there. And I just feel like I wouldn't want to waste a Brighton slot on Lamptey when coming up very soon from kind of game week 10 onwards, we've got some phenomenal fixtures for Brighton. I just feel like I want to be more aggressive, be more proactive with my Brighton slots, and Lamptey is just not going to fit that criteria for me. Almiron, a couple of goals in the last 2 games, but is that going to be enough? Is it going to be sustainable long term? I'm not exactly sure. He should be getting game time at the very least, so that's a good thing with Gordon and Barnes now out, but do I trust Almiron this season? Not so much. I feel like maybe he's been a little bit fortunate with the returns he's got so far. And 6.3 million, I feel like there are still a couple of better options at that price tag. And in these kind of like cheaper midfielders kind of players, Almiron is not really a player I'd like to have long term in my team. So he's okay. He is an option. You could get something from him, but would be super high on my list. We've got another 6.3 million midfielder who I do actually prefer, and that is Ward-Prowse. The only problem with Ward-Prowse is that he does have Newcastle as his next fixture, and although he is my favourite player at his price tag, I don't like that fixture a lot, and that's going to limit his open play attacking returns. However, he is playing in an advanced position, more so than he did at Southampton, and he is on all those set pieces, and what we do know about Ward-Prowse is that he is a fixture-proof player, and therefore it's not going to matter that he's going to play Newcastle, and after that, we've got some much better fixtures for West Ham. So still, I do feel like Ward-Prowse is an option and would be my preference. If you've only got 6.3 million to spend on a midfielder, he would be my preference to go for there. So we're going to stick him in good transfer. Leno is going to go in optional because I feel like his good fixtures are almost at an end. We've got one more good fixture, and then things do start to look a little bit hairier for Fulham. So therefore, he's still okay at 4.7 million. I would be more tempted to go for maybe another goalkeeper. You know, maybe David Raya at Arsenal. It's only a little bit more expensive than Leno, and you're probably going to get more from a player like Raya. So therefore, Leno, not hugely keen. He's okay as a goalkeeper, but you know, again, wouldn't really be the kind of player I'd be looking to pick. Ben White, okay, well, this is a classic example. We see at least 1 or 2 of these players every single game week where we see a defender score a random goal out of character, maybe gets a clean sheet as well, gets a massive haul for 1 game week only, and everyone rushes to buy them. And that, guys, is called a knee-jerk transfer. And I'm not about those knee-jerk transfers. So I'm going to put White in the avoid section. Yes, he got a goal last game week, and clean sheets are going to be on the cards occasionally for Arsenal. However, Ben White is not typically a goal-scoring or even assisting kind of fullback, really, in this Arsenal system. And actually, what we've seen so far this season is that he took, I believe, 5 game weeks before he even generated 0.01 XG. He just doesn't take shots. It's just not his job in that Arsenal team. So a free goal is definitely not enough to justify spending 5.5 million on Ben White. If you want to go in an Arsenal defender, I would go for Gabriel at his really, really cheap price. I believe Gabriel is 4.7, 4.8 million. You're going to get just as much, if not more, from Gabriel He's going to have better rates of attacking returns, and you get just as many clean sheet points from the likes of Gabriel. So therefore, Ben White, just not an option as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to stick him straight in the avoid category. And on top of all of that, he plays against Manchester City next. So I just think it's a terrible, terrible transfer, a big knee jerk. I really could not recommend this one, much less, to be honest. I'm going to even maybe stick him behind Tariq Lamptey. Only Gordon, who doesn't even have a fixture, I would say is a worse transfer than Ben White out of the players we've discussed so far. I'm going to put Saka in next, and I feel like Saka is always going to be at least an option. Even though the next two fixtures are pretty stinky, we've got Man City and then Chelsea after that. Chelsea doing pretty well defensively. A few games after that, we've got Newcastle as well. So in the next four, we've got three very, very tough fixtures for Saka and for the Arsenal attackers, I would say. So therefore, can I say Saka is a great transfer? Definitely not. Would I say he's a good transfer? Yeah, I guess at a push, but only because it's Saka. No other reason, really. It's just because of the player he is and the form that he's showing and the determination he is showing to play every single game. I just feel like if you don't already have Saka, would I be desperate to move towards him? Maybe not. I would maybe go into a slightly different direction and maybe wait a couple of game weeks. You know, Arsenal have got Sheffield United in game week 10, and I feel like that would be a good opportunity to bring in Saka at that point. I feel like you could be okay to wait a little while before getting Saka if you don't have him already. But look, he's still a good pick. He's still a good player, and he's still going to be a player you want in your team long term. So I'm not going to be too harsh on him. Still think he's a good transfer. Archer, that he's fine. He's a 4.5 million forward that he's going to get regular game time. If that's what you're looking for as like a player for your bench who's occasionally going to cover you, then look, he does the job. Wouldn't expect too much from him. Sheffield United really poor in attack in general, and I don't even believe Archer's taken more than one shot in the last few games, to be honest. So yeah, it's not a pick that you should expect too much from Sheffield United. Just not doing the business in attack. So he's fine if you're looking for a bench option, but that's just about it. Ødegaard, a decent game for him last game week, to be fair, taking that penalty, being creative in that game as well, picking up the bonus points, which is always nice. Ahead of the Man City game, would I be picking Ødegaard? No, not me personally, but he's still an option, I guess. And I'm not going to put him in the same category as Saka. I don't think he is quite as good as a pick as Saka. And I just don't... I wouldn't go over the top with your Arsenal players in this fixture run, to be honest. Look, it's Man City, Chelsea, and Newcastle in the next four. It's not good. So, therefore, there's a lot of players I would rather have in my FPL team than Ødegaard. He is still an option, but, you know, barely, I think. You know, if you want to go in, again, like Saka, if you want to wait a few more game weeks, we'll probably be having a very different discussion. But now, Ødegaard is going to go in there. Now, Porro's an interesting one. I'm actually, you know, as Udogie and Porro get closer and closer in price tag, the more I kind of think, yeah, Porro's actually genuinely an okay option. Porro's actually got some of the best stats in the Spurs defense. If we're looking for a good attacking defender, then Porro definitely fits that category. He's got better attacking numbers than Udogie, just about, which is positive, and you could actually get some nice returns as a bit of a Porro differential. So I think he's a good transfer. I do like him. I'm going to put him in the good transfer category. However, Udogie is just better for me. That 0.2 million difference in price is definitely an impact there, and also Udogie's positioning is just fantastic, and I always feel like he is very close to getting FPL returns. You know, he's got all of the right characteristics in a defender in FPL that we would be looking for future returns. So definitely like Udogie slightly more than Porro. Going to put Udogie in the great transfer category, and in general, these guys against Luton next and then Fulham, these are really nice fixtures for our Spurs defenders. I would be looking very closely at these two guys. And that's another reason why Romero is so low. Before it was like, okay, I prefer Udogie to Romero, so why would you pick Romero? Just go for Udogie. Now it's even more extreme. I prefer both Udogie and Porro to Romero. Romero is now my third favourite Spurs defender, so it just doesn't seem like worth going for him right now. I would leave Romero and stick with Udogie and Porro. I like these picks quite a lot. Julian Alvarez, Arsenal up next. So not the greatest fixture, but look, this guy's still in amazing form. Scored a free kick last game week. You know, being on those free kicks and corners is always going to help him. The fixture is difficult. I mean, I feel like at this point for Man City, this is probably the most difficult fixture they could face. Arsenal putting up some really solid defensive numbers. Man City coming off the back of a loss there as well. Is it the perfect time to buy Man City players? Probably not, to be fair. But Alvarez is kind of like Saka in a way. He's one of those nice, reliable, long-term assets. So I feel like we can stick Alvarez right next to Saka. And in general, Alvarez's next couple of fixtures are better than Saka's. And also, he's a lot cheaper as well, which is always kind of helpful. Salah, let's put him in somewhere next. Yeah, I don't think he's essential yet. I still don't think he's essential. So I'm not going to put him in must-buy. Would I put him in a great transfer? Maybe not. I think at minimum, Salah is a good transfer if you can make it work, but most of you guys are not going to be able to make it work, and I feel like that is the sticking point with Salah. Unless you're on a wild card, it's going to be very difficult to get Salah in your team, and the sacrifices you make in your team are probably not going to be worthwhile compared to going for Saka. You know, you might have to remove some really good players in order to get Salah if you're only doing it in 2 transfers. If you're doing it on a wild card and can have a full restructure, you might be able to have Salah in your team and do a really good job of it, but it's going to depend on you, really. It's going to be depending on which players you're removing. It's going to depend on whether you're on a wild card right now or not. If you're wild carding soon, maybe you can wait a little while before getting Salah, but I do feel like there is an opportunity for him to get some points against Brighton. I really do. So I still think he's a good transfer. I'm going to put him like here. There are some reasons not to go for him right now, definitely. But look, he's still a very, very, very good pick. So yeah, that's where he goes. Areola, I guess, is like optional. If you're on a wild card, you probably put him in. But aside from that, probably not this game week. Tough fixture next against Newcastle for West Ham, so I wouldn't be super keen to go for him. And also, West Ham just not the greatest defensive team at the moment. They got a clean sheet against Sheffield United, but it's not really saying much. Aside from that, no clean sheets for them whatsoever. So Areola, he's fine. He's fine, particularly if you're on a wild card. Would not be spending a transfer on him. So therefore, he's going to go next to Archer in the kind of fine on a wild card kind of category. Fine if you just bringing him in to put on your bench, but if you're just using your plain old Mr. Transfers, probably wouldn't be going for Areola right now. Next up, Burn. With the likes of Botman out, we are running out of options in the Newcastle defence. I feel like West Ham is not the easiest fixture away from home. Could concede a goal there. However, Burn is still a reasonably good pick for the long term. I still do think that there will be the occasional rotation for Burn, but as a 4.5 million defender, he's up there. He really is up there, especially if we're like hardline 4.5, no one more expensive, no 4.6, no 4.7, no 4.8s. We just want to go for a 4.5 or less. Burn has definitely got to be in the conversation, at least as an option. So I'm going to put him in. Good transfer. Right, there we go. He can go in right there. So, yeah, that's pretty nice. Next up, Neto. Yeah, he's in good form, isn't he, guys? He's in good form. Even managing to get some assist points against Man City with the kind of own goal assist, which is an FPL assist, I guess. But it all counts the same, doesn't it? But, yeah, if there's one player we would be looking at Wolves, like from Wolves right now, it's probably going to be Neto. The fixtures are starting to look a lot better for Wolves. And I feel like if you're picking a good, talented player in some good fixtures, then you're often going to get results from that. Is he a great transfer? Probably not, but at 5.6 million, I feel like he's at least a good transfer. So I'm going to put him in kind of in the same area as Ward-Prowse. I feel like this is genuinely a decent pick at 5.6 million. Very, very cheap. You know, we need a decent amount of quality from our player for a cheap price, but you have to kind of manage your expectations a little bit. And I feel like Neto could do okay. He's not a bad pick at all. Diaby, as long as he is fit, and I believe he is going to be fit, Emery's comments suggest that he's going to be fine for next game. I would say Diaby is straight up a great transfer. Really nice, really aggressive. He played fantastically against Brighton. Really unlucky not to get more from that game. And even in that game, he still managed the 2 assists, didn't he? So really impressive stuff from Diaby, and really looking forward to what comes next from him. If you can't afford the likes of Ollie Watkins, or you can't structurally fit Watkins in, I feel like Diaby, for this fantastic run of fixtures for Aston Villa, is definitely an alternative option, and a really good alternative option as well. So Diaby, I'm going to rate him as a great transfer. Really, really like this pick. Anderson, yeah, maybe he's a bit of a Ben White in many ways, because he scored a goal, of course, the only goal against Manchester United. Clean sheet, bonus points, a massive score. Is going to lead a lot of people to bring him in. But is it a knee-jerk? Yes, kind of is a knee-jerk. What I should be saying about Crystal Palace is that in general, their defensive numbers seem to be trending downwards. They seem to be getting slightly worse defensively over the last few game weeks. And with that as well, the next 4 fixtures, we've got 2 real toughies in there against the likes of so we've got Spurs in there, for example, who often score a goal. So if I'm honest, if we're looking for clean sheets for Anderson, I would predict that he gets 1 clean sheet in the next 4 game weeks. Is that enough for you? Probably not. Do you think he's going to score goals? Well, look, he's the best attacking threat from the Crystal Palace defence. We all know that. We all accept that. However, how often is he going to score? Once every 5 game weeks? Once every 6 game weeks? Something like that is probably going to be pretty accurate every 5 or 6 game weeks. You can't comfortably predict when it's going to be. And yeah, because of the lack of clean sheet potential in the upcoming 4 fixtures, I'm not massively keen on Anderson. But look, he's okay. If he was 4.5 million, I'd probably be talking him up a little bit more, but he's not. Around the 4.7, you can go for some other defenders. You can go for Udogie, you can go for Cash, you can go for some others there as well, who are you know, Gabriel maybe, who I do prefer to Anderson. So in general, I'm going to put him in the optional category, probably around here, but no more than that. He's an okay defensive pick, but don't expect too much from him. Don't expect him to score how he did against Manchester United every game. Bowen, because he's not as fixture-proof as Ward-Prowse, I feel like I have to drop him actually slightly below on the Newcastle game because it is a tough fixture. But he's still a good transfer, Bowen, because he is in such fantastic form. And I feel like Bowen could be seeing a bit of a resurgence as an FPL asset. And I feel like he is going to maybe, particularly after this Newcastle game, he could transition genuinely from one of those differential players to actually one of those more popular players, a mainstay player in our team, a player that we've all got. Bowen has the potential to become that very soon, and it might be nice to get ahead of the crowd a little bit here by getting him in now. But the fixture isn't good. We know the fixture isn't good. Newcastle are a very strong defence, and there's every chance that West Ham struggle to score more than 1 goal against them. Is that 1 goal going to be Bowen? Maybe. You know, he's probably got one of the better chances, but I just prefer Ward-Prowse at the cheaper price this game week. And then after that, I would say Bowen would probably be a better pick. So it's kind of up to you. Both good transfers. Both have their merits. Both have different things going for them. But in general, I would drop Bowen. Not quite as high as Ward-Prowse this game week, but still a decent transfer to go for if you want to. Maddison, he's got to be a great transfer against Luton next. Maddison is an absolute machine, and if he wasn't faced up against Alisson, Maddison could have had a haul against Liverpool. He really, really could. Against the likes of Kaminsky, it might be a slightly different story. We are expecting Spurs to comfortably beat Luton Town, and you expect Maddison to be heavily involved in those goals. So I like Maddison for the next couple of game weeks. After that, he is maybe a player that could be sacrificed, but it depends on his form. It depends how he's performing. It depends if we like the look of him as a longer term pick. But right now, he's definitely a great transfer, definitely a player you should be having a look at if you don't have him already. Would thoroughly recommend having a look at Maddison at the very, very least. Next up, Kieran Trippier. Still going to be a great transfer for me. I'm not going to put him quite as high as Maddison and Diaby just because I'm not massively keen on the West Ham fixture. Plus, we have got an Arsenal game coming up soon as well, which I don't love for Newcastle. But in general, I don't think it's too late on Trippier. I don't think it's too late to go for him. I think you guys have still got a chance to get involved in the Trippier returns, the attacking returns, the clean sheet returns. It's still looking pretty good there. So it's not too late. You can still go for Trippier. He is getting more and more expensive. And I feel like the further we go into the season, the further Trippier will drop down in how important he is as a transfer. It's going to get worse from here. But right now, look, he's doing really well, really, really well. And at his price tag, he is going to be outscoring a lot of the midfielders at a similar price. You know, maybe even justifies moving to a 4-4-2 formation or 4-5-1 formation, something like that if you wanted to do that, because Trippier is going to be scoring and outscoring a lot of the midfielders at a similar price to him. So love him. Really, really good pick still. Next up, Matty Cash. Still think he's going to be a really important pick as well. And I have to put him in and around Udogie and Trippier. In fact, would I put Cash higher than Udogie? Yes, I would, because Cash has a better attacking output. Would I put him higher than Trippier? Yes, I'm going to put him above Trippier. But the reason is price. If they were the same price, I'd take Trippier every time, but they're not. Like, this is a significant price difference. 1.8 million difference in price at time of recording between Cash and Trippier. You're going to be able to do a decent amount with that amount of money. So, look, Trippier is better, but Cash, man, for getting in the box constantly, taking shots, always dangerous. Has some amazing fixtures for quite some time for Aston Villa. I would make sure he's one of your top defensive transfer targets. In fact, of all of the defenders right now, you know, if you've got a defender who is injured right now, or you really want to remove them from your FPL team, and you can choose just one replacement, if you can't quite afford Trippier, or if it's a stretch to afford Trippier, Matty Cash is your guy. He's going in great transfer. No regrets. Next up, and we'll go on to the final 2 players now, guys. Heung-min Son. Son Heung-min is going to go for me in the must-buy category. Yes, he is. He is going to be, for me, an essential player. Really, really, really rate him in this striker position. And now we've seen, even when Richarlison is playing alongside Son, Richarlison is actually playing out wide on the left, and Son has locked down that central striker position. A lot of people were very doubtful about whether Son would be a striker long-term. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident about that right now. We've got Luton Town next, a phenomenal fixture for a phenomenal attacker in amazing form, who is also probably going to be one of the, if not the, top captaincy option for the game week. So you're bringing in a player in form, amazing fixtures, and you can captain them all at the same time. For me, that is a must buy. So those of you guys who haven't jumped in on Son yet, I would make sure he is your #1 transfer priority target to go for in game week 8. Would not be leaving this guy out. No way. Which means we've got one more player. He's not going to go ahead of Son. It is Ollie Watkins, the flavour of the week, the knee-jerk of the week, perhaps. Well, perhaps not. I do still really rate Ollie Watkins. I don't think he is necessarily a knee-jerk transfer. I don't think just because a player scored a lot of points last game week, that automatically means if you transfer them in, you're knee-jerking. There's actually a lot of merits to Watkins. Is he going to score a hat-trick every game week? Hell no. No way is he going to do that. It's just not a chance. He doesn't do that usually. I feel like he only got around 1 XG in that game against Brighton. And usually Watkins actually underperforms his XG. He's not known as an elite finisher. So it was bizarre to see Watkins score a hat-trick. But you can't take that away from him. He still did do that. He's still going to be a player in form right now. Aston Villa are a team in attacking form right now. And they have ridiculously good fixtures. So therefore, he has to go down as a great transfer. He is my favourite forward to go for right now. I still think there are other options. But if you're looking for a new forward, then go for Watkins. There are definitely some other forwards that I feel like are valuable. I still think Darwin Nunez is going to be a good pick going forward. I still like Alvarez, you know, players like Awani perhaps. There's lots of options in the forward position, even Isak, you know. But the best of them all is Watkins right now. It's just going to be depending on affordability, who you have in your team currently. Do you have a terrible forward in your team? Do you still have like Nicholas Jackson in your team right now, whereby any transfer is going to be an improvement? Then in that case, go for Watkins. If you already have Isak, if you already have Darwin Nunez, would I make the move to Watkins then? Probably not. Probably, especially not for a hit. You still could potentially do that, but you know, it's not like a massive priority. But in terms of straight up, who's the best forward to go for in the game right now? Ollie Watkins, isn't it? And I think we all agree on that one. But let me know what you think, guys. Is Ollie Watkins a knee-jerk transfer? Or has he actually shown, even before Game Week 7, that he's been a consistent asset who is capable of getting FPL returns and with these amazing fixtures moving forward? And Aston Villa really do have the best ever fixtures. Like, I would want, ideally, like, you look at the must-buys and the great transfers here. You can see we've got 3 Aston Villa players all in great transfer. I would want all 3. I would want all 3. If you're on a wild card, I would pick all 3. You know, I'd pick Son and Maddison as well. The triple up on Villa, the triple up on Spurs, I feel like that is where we want to be. These 2 top categories, if you're on a wild card right now, these would be the first players I pick. Son, Watkins, Maddison, Diaby, Cash, Trippier, Udogie. Make the rest work around that, you know. That's probably what I would say. Unless you're trying to go for Salah in your team as well and budget is an issue, then, you know, these top players here are the essential picks right now. Great fixtures, great form from all of them, and they're going to keep scoring good FPL points in my opinion. So, yeah, that's how we're going to have the tier list for today. Let me know what you think about my order here. Have I got this right? Have I got this wrong? Anyone in the good position? Anyone in a position you actually disagree with? And are there any other players that I haven't included in this tier list that you think should be going on this tier list? Let me know in the comments, and I'll try and rank some of those in the comment section as well, because, you know, always plenty more FPL to talk about in the comment section too. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy, drop a like. Really does help out the channel. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well. We're going to be streaming tonight after the Chelsea game, our strategy stream, as we always do on a Monday. So tune into that one. If you're watching this a little bit later on, go watch the stream replay as well if you want to. It's always a bit of a fun to catch up on that one in a slightly longer form video as well. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates.